right, all right. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Hello, welcome. I'm going to give this just a moment, let some people come in here, let the chat fill up a bit, and we will jump on in. I hope you all are having a wonderful evening or morning, wherever in the world you may be. Hey, it's 2 a.m. Oh, wow. Well, thank you for being here. That is some dedication. Yes. So there so unfortunately Kimberly had to reschedule for today, but we will be linking up and meeting up. I haven't finalized the date just yet. A couple of things came up, but we will be coming together either later this week or early next. So sincere apologies about that, but I figured I still wanted to get on and chat with y'all and have a good 4 a.m. Oh, wow. Thank you all for being here. So yes, unfortunately, Kimberly's not going to be here tonight, but we're still going to have a good time. This is still going to be a lot of fun. I am super excited, and we will be linking up very shortly. Appreciate your guys' patience with that. Oh, thank you, Aubrey. Thank you. Hello. Yeah, I'm going to give it just a minute or so-ish, and we'll go ahead and start jumping in with questions. Give people some time to filter on in. This is going to be fun. I'm super excited. Oh, and really quick, if anyone has if there's any audio issues or video issues, definitely give me a shout. Can everybody hear me and see me okay? Hi, Christy. Thank you for being here. Nice. Yep, going live again. This will be a lot of fun. Hello, you guys. Hello, Danielle. I hope you all are having a fantastic day so far, wherever you are. All right. And everybody can see me okay and hear me okay? Hello, Allison. Awesome. Okay, fantastic. Just making sure. Audio's good, video's good. Yes, good to see everyone. Hello, Joe. All right, diving on in with some questions. Oh, thank you, Joe. Thank you. I'm glad they've been helpful. That's my intention. I am so glad. All right. Already a couple awesome questions so far. right. Do I have to constantly reinforce a new state of being in order to retain my body, feel it, or do I have to imagine a scene in sats and try to let go during the day? Do I have to constantly reinforce a new state of being in order to retrain my body to feel it, or I have to imagine a scene in sats? Oh, okay. So persistence versus letting go. I if I gather that correctly, do we constantly reinforce or do we let go? And correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, that's a fantastic question because it does sound, contradicting, right? Do we persist or do we let go when it comes to reinforcing a new state of consciousness? And I don't know if I use the word reinforcement, but well, so yes, you do want to, when we're first getting into this, when we're first, getting used to the state, that new desired state, we do want to go into that, feel that in imagination as much and as long as possible. So what I would do and what I would recommend always is, feel yourself in sats when you're in that meditation, when you're in that drowsy state. And if you notice the old story coming up, if you notice in your day to day that you're still struggling and maybe, getting bombarded with the old thoughts and reactions, that's what we mean persist, right? If you're still seeing remnants of that old story and remnants of that old feeling, persist. Once you have, how do I put this? You'll naturally begin to let go. Once that desired state becomes that new dominant state of consciousness, once you have really embodied it enough, you will naturally want to let it go. It will become that just a new way of being, and it stays with you. So I hope that makes sense. So basically, persist until you begin to naturally feel that new state of consciousness in your day to day. And you're naturally going to want to drop it when you get there. And I hope I answered that question. If I missed anything, let me know. Just reading through a couple of these. I got my SP back, but he hasn't conformed. He said I'm not a priority. We're in a relationship, but he wants to take it slow. He doesn't really care about my feelings. So it sounds like you might still be on the bridge or an impartial well, I don't like to say impartial, but if basically at any point, like if you're not seeing the 3D experience that desire, if you're not experiencing in the 3D what you desire, it's not the end yet. It's not the end yet. So I would persist. I would persist nonetheless. If they're back in your life, but they haven't fully conformed, persist nonetheless. Because the 3D is just always a perfect shadow. It's a perfect outpicturing. But it sounds very much like you may still be on your bridge and everything is still unfolding. So persist, 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 persist. Did my SP know I was manifesting them? Or that you were doing the inner work to have the relationship you desired? If so, what are their thoughts on it now? I love this question. That is a great question. Thank you, Diana. It's funny. It was a while after we got back together that it came up in conversation. I don't even remember how it came up in conversation, but he knows that I had in fact manifested him. At first, he wasn't quite sure what to think or what to believe, but over the years of being together, he's certainly a believer in the law. He follows it himself. And did he know at the time that I was manifesting them? He said that he could definitely feel a shift in how he was feeling at times. Like more and more, I would start to pop in his mind. He would start to miss me. So I guess in a sense, yes. Yeah. Yeah. He's a huge proponent of the law now today. How do you ignore the awareness that it hasn't happened yet, or that inner voice that says it will never happen? That little voice in the back of your mind that's saying all of the things that we don't want and telling us it's never going to happen, that's fear. That's just fear and doubt. That's all it is. It's not real. It does not have any effect over you. You are more powerful than that fear. You may not feel like it in the moment, but essentially the entire point of this practice is begin using our imagination and kind of building up it. I like to describe it as a muscle. The more that we begin to really use our imagination and understanding that our imagination is the doorway into whatever we desire to experience. And the more and more that you turn inwards, you turn in imagination, you shut out the world around you, that you will naturally become that person that you desire. That voice will go away on its own. It will start to quiet. It will become less and less. You won't be so attached to it anymore. So honestly, this is something that, it's stemming from a limiting belief. It's stemming from a limiting assumption. And that's all that is. As we begin to really recondition our mind, as we begin to really practice going somewhere else in imagination entirely, feeling and embodying that new state, that voice dissipates on its own. So do we need to affirm? Do we need to affirm constantly, or just live in the end? You don't need to affirm constantly. No. We don't need to barrage ourselves with affirmations all day, every day. No, that's not necessary. We just need to get to a place where we're living in the end. We're living in the end. And if you notice that the old story is coming up, just go back to that. Always remember to use the imagination. Your imagination is the most powerful tool that we have. That is your creative power. And that is the escape from this 3D reality, from this state of consciousness. Missy, what is the most effective way to manifest a large amount of money into my experience? The most effective way to manifest a large amount of money. Tapping into the state of abundance, tapping into a state of gratitude. Think really when it comes to money, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to health, it could be anything. It is always, the question to always ask yourself is, what does that version of me, when I think about and I picture that perfect life with all the abundance and all that money, like what does that look like? What does that feel like? If I could just tap into that for a moment and just let your mind really begin to play with that idea, just ask yourself the question, and whatever comes up, what would it feel like if I had this large sum of money? I would feel free. I would feel secure. I'd feel relaxed. I'd feel content. I'd feel satisfied. I'd feel grateful, right? So really just embodying that feeling. Feeling really is the secret, you guys. It's everything. Everything. I feel calm, sort of, not all days though. But I don't feel like visualizing or affirming for him. It's been 3 years, not sure if I impress my subconscious or it's my mind giving up. I can't tell. Feel calm, sort of, not all days though. Well, I take it that you're talking about, or you're asking about the Sabbath period, or whether or not you're in that Sabbath period. I mean, you get to that feeling where it's done. And from what, it is a place of calm. It's definitely a place of calm, and it's important to note too, because I know a lot of people, you know, sometimes get stressed if they have a moment, if they have anxiety here or there, if they have little bits of doubt coming in. That's not going to throw things off course. So the point is, if you're feeling calm, if you're not having the urge to affirm or visualize or need to do anything, that sounds like an impression to me. That sounds like an impression to me. You'll come to a place where you naturally begin to let go of the urge to do something because you don't need to anymore. You know that it's done. I hope that made sense. I got to make a video talking about the Sabbath more. And that is coming. I'm trying to manifest financial independence and wealth. Do I have inner conversations with money? Do I imagine money talking to me? How nutty should I go? How, or see myself in a wealthy life scene? You can get as nutty as you want. You can go as wild as you desire. Our imagination is limitless, completely limitless. So whatever comes up for you, whatever resonates with you, when it comes to money, whether that's, imagining, what you would be doing with that money, imagining, a moment in that life, what that would look like for you, what that would feel like for you. You can go wherever you want to go, and just go with what feels good. Go with what resonates. That's everything. Yeah, I would go with whatever feels really, really good. Can you manifest your SP to change their lifestyle? We stopped talking over a year ago and now we like different things. I don't know. I feel like maybe he's not that old person anymore. Yes, you can absolutely manifest a change in their lifestyle. Absolutely. We stopped talking over a year ago and now we like different things. It's important to remember too. This is kind of where the self-observation comes in, and remembering that whatever we're assuming about that other person is how they're going to keep conforming to us. So if there's something that you desire to change, especially when it comes to other people, we need to be mindful always of, what are we assuming about them, right? Because it is that assumption that's going to take form. So if you desire to see a change in that person, we need to turn our focus and attention away from how they've changed and what we don't want, and instead remember to keep our focus on the version of them that we do desire to experience. But absolutely, you can manifest a change in a person. Manifest anything. What scene do you recommend to make your SP faithful to you? She blocked me everywhere. Oh, and I know, especially in today's age, how difficult it can feel and how final it can feel if somebody blocked us. But I've said it again, I'm going to say it a million times. Circumstances never matter. Ever matter. In this moment, I know it probably feels like it's final, but it's never final. And as far as what scene I'd recommend, I mean, that's something that's going to be a personal thing for everybody. I when it comes to what to imagine or what we want to visualize, for me, I would begin to really kind of outline in my mind, starting with asking myself, always remembering to ask myself, like, what in this desired version, in this desired reality, and looking at the desired version of me and my partner or whatever it is, like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? So in this case, my person is faithful to me. Marinate and meditate on that for a moment. and really think about what that feels like and looks like to you. And whatever comes up, begin to construct your scene with that, right? Sometimes it helps to just even write out an outline, but it's something that's going to be personal for everybody. But always ask yourself that question and start with that question first. If I was in that desired reality right now, what would that look like? What would that feel like? And begin to build on it from there. Exactly how I'm feeling now and what I wanted to ask. I feel like dropping it, but it's weird, contradictory feeling where wish my breakup never happened. Would love to hear from him, but I'm like, whatever now. I feel like dropping it, but it's weird, contradictory feeling. Wish the breakup never happened. Okay. So it sounds like there's no longer a desire to do any kind of meditation or visualization or any kind of practice, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying to gather the question. I feel like dropping it, but it's weird, contradictory feeling. Or I wish my breakup never happened. So it does sound like there may be a little bit of double-mindedness going on there. Would love to hear from him, but I'm like, whatever now. And again, it may also be, we do have moments, because again, we're humans having human experiences, right? We are still having human experiences, and sometimes at moments we get frustrated, we get tired. These happen, Above anything, make sure to be gentle with yourself. And if you kind of feel like you're in a space that maybe feels more like burnt out, give yourself whatever you need to help fill you, first and foremost. Take care of you first, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I feel like it's done, but at other times I feel like it will happen, but it's not happening now. Do I have to feel like it's happening now at all times? Sometimes I feel like it's done, but other times I feel like it will happen, but it's not happening now. So what I think and correct me if I'm wrong, Rena, but I think you're asking about, do I need to, in this moment in the 3D, feel like it's here right now? What I'm gathering? So when you have that feeling of it's done, it's like it's a soul satisfaction. It's a soul satisfaction, and it is. I mean, we don't have to pretend like that desire is with us in the 3D right now. It is a knowing that everything will unfold perfectly. Everything will go perfectly to plan. Because everything first starts in imagination. Everything is first created in imagination. And then out pictures in the 3D. So it's knowing and it's feeling and it's knowing that despite what the 3D shows us right now, it's a done deal. So in that sense, it is a feeling of like it will happen in the 3D because it's done in imagination, because you have impressed that. And you begin to, that's the Sabbath. That is essentially the place where it's a feeling of satisfaction. And there's nothing left to do. I imagine perfectly in Sats. But during the day, I feel fear. Do I have to persist in the assumption that I do the work in Sats, so it's going to change? Or I have to reinforce the feeling every 30 minutes? I imagine perfectly in Sats, but during the day, I feel fear. Do I have to persist in the assumption that I do the work in Sats, so it's going to change? Well, so if at any point you're noticing that old story coming up in your day-to-day, in the 3D, if you notice that there's still a lot of fear, if there's still a feeling of a lot of anxiety, I mean, the point of this again is to begin to really acclimate with that feeling in imagination. And the more that we do that, the more that we begin to tap into that feeling in imagination and really begin to embody that new state of consciousness, the more that we fuse with it. It is a feeling of, this is now who I am. And it follows you, right? It begins, that's how the 3D conforms. The imagination is the doorway into that new state of consciousness. So, that's where the persistence comes in. Yet we do want to persist in feeling that feeling in imagination until it becomes a cemented 3D fact. What affirmations can I use to finally see movement change? I need 3D movement. What affirmations can I use? Well, actually, I need 3D movement. I would use any kind of affirmations that truly resonate with you. I would use affirmations that we really can feel, like it really kind of brings something up in us. I wouldn't use affirmations for the sake of saying affirmations or parroting affirmations. I wouldn't do it. We don't want to use them out of fear. We don't want to use them as a way to get something. We want to use affirmations and find ways of putting it that is going to actually tap into what we want to feel. So whatever that may be. And this is where we get to get creative. But would not recommend using affirmations just for the sake of using them. Find something that truly resonates with you. Can we manifest our SP if they blocked us? Absolutely. Absolutely. Circumstances never, ever, ever matter. Doesn't matter if you're blocked. Doesn't matter what they said in the past. Doesn't matter if they live on the other side of the world. Literally does not matter. The 3D is a shadow. And it is changeable. It is moldable. What would you suggest one can do when you basically have given up and yet can't shake the desire? Thanks, Missy. Aww. It's okay to, if we get to a place of burnout and we get to a place where it feels like we want to give up, use that time to really take care of yourself as much as possible. Use that time to really, put everything on, do whatever you can. And I know in moments it's going to be hard. I know in moments when we're tired and we're exhausted and we still can't shake the desire. But whatever we can do to really kind of help ourselves get into a better place, even just a little bit. Finding something that brings you joy, even if it's just a little bit, taking care of ourselves, whatever that might look like. If this is something that we can't force it through any kind of willpower. So if we're feeling exhausted, if we're feeling burnout, if we're feeling like we want to give up, that's a sign that it's really time to just do whatever you can for yourself to recharge your batteries. The beauty of this is that no matter what, we can always turn things around. If we need to take a moment to take care of us and get ourselves back to a place of strength and where we can really get back on this horse, then do that. The manifestation isn't going anywhere. That desire is not going anywhere. I promise. Take care of yourself, first and foremost. I imagined my SP and I got back together a couple of months ago, and she reached out but didn't reply and blocked me, and nothing has happened since then. And she reached out and nothing has happened since then. It sounds like a little bit of hot and cold behavior. And hot and cold behavior comes from our hot and cold behavior, essentially. That is when we are double-minded. What I recommend always is that persistence. Really use your imagination as the powerful creative tool that it is. Use it to help you get to that feeling. Use it, if nothing else, to help get away from the 3D for a moment. Shut out the senses for a moment and go somewhere that feels nice. Go somewhere else. But this is where the persistence comes in. And it might take a moment to really begin to acclimate. The imagination does act like a muscle in that sense. So if you're seeing hot and cold behavior, if you're noticing things aren't conforming, or they're coming your way and then falling back, persist. That's where persistence is so important. Sometimes I get confused if what I'm feeling is excitement or anxiety. Well, they're practically identical. They're practically identical. The difference being one is coming from a state of fear and one's coming from a state of love. And an important question to always ask yourself is what I'm feeling, or is how I'm reacting, coming from a place of fear or love? And I would do that with everything. Reading Neville's lectures, some of them, he talks about visions and experiences with dead friends. How would you describe this Neville's phase? I actually am making videos talking about that very soon. Neville's view on death is, like everything else, very not traditional. He basically, there's no such thing as death in the way that we encounter it, in the way that we perceive it. We don't die. We can't die. There's no such thing. There's only a change. There's only movement. And it also comes back to the laws of physics. We cannot be created, we cannot be destroyed. We can only change form. But I am planning on coming out with a video talking about death, because it is one that definitely gets brought up a lot. And it is quite a fascinating take, for sure. But essentially, it's important to remember that there is no such thing as us dying and not existing anymore. It's not a real thing. How do I manifest a one-night stand with a coworker of mine? Same way that you would manifest anything else. Imagination. Imagine what it would feel like, what would be going through your mind. Play with the idea in imagination. How can we revise something from never happening? Therefore, no one remembers. How can we revise something from never happening? Therefore, no one remembers. So with revision, there's two options, really. We can, if there's an unwanted event that happened, if there was something that took place that we did not like, we did not want, there's, conforming it in a way that it turned out the way that we wanted it to go, right? So basically rewriting the script. Another way that we can approach revision is creating a new memory entirely. So, I mean, quite literally, like none of that ever happened. Whatever that event was, whatever took place, just create the new memory entirely. It's just an imaginal act anyways. Memories are just imaginal acts. That's all they are. And you can, by the way, you can absolutely revise to where nobody remembers whatever that thing was. You are quite literally erasing that timeline. Some great questions tonight, you guys. Just FYI. What are some soothing affirmations or things? Sorry. What are some soothing affirmations or things one should do when you don't see movement in the 3D, but you think you're doing everything right? One of my go-tos and my favorites is everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. Or some variation of the kind. Everything always works out for me. That's a powerful one. Can we ever ruin our manifestation like we reach out from lack, etc.? Or will it manifest if we get back into the state of wish fulfilled? Can we ever ruin our manifestation? So if we reach out to somebody, can we? So we shouldn't interact with the 3D because again, the 3D is a shadow. And if it's unwanted behavior, it's typically that old story. So no, we don't want to interact with the old story. But ruin your manifestation, no. We can't ruin our manifestation because we can always change the story. We can always change the outcome. Basically, what I think you're asking, what I think you're describing is more of conditioning our desire. When we try to take action, when we try to do something to get things to start moving, and doing that can cause a delay, or what appears to us as a time delay, but we can't ruin our manifestations. No. I just need something simple and crucial to have a firm grip on this law. With good self-concept, in order to manifest our desires, we just need to focus on feeling of wish fulfilled, correct? With good self-concept, in order to manifest our desires. Absolutely, that's correct. Yeah, we just need to focus on go to the end. Just go to the end. Focus on that place. Focus on that, again, asking that question. If I were now living my desired experience, if I was now in that reality, what would that look like? What would that feel like? And go there. Just go to the end. You're spot on. Important is feeling of wish fulfilled, not really scenes, correct? Words, scenes, hearing, etc. are just tools to input the feeling. Correct. Yes, Anthony. Yes. That is absolutely true. The affirmations, the visualizing, the scenes, all of that, those are tools to help and aid to invoke a feeling. But at the end of the day, feeling is truly the secret. Feeling is 100% the secret. That's absolutely right. Moon Goddard, I love your name. How many times would you affirm during the day? So, in me personal, I'm not a huge affirmation person. If a mood strikes, but in general, like how many to affirm, again, we just want to make sure that we're not just parroting affirmations for the sake of parroting, and we don't want to do it out of a state of fear or from a state of fear. So do however much feels good to you, however many times resonates with you. And it's going to be different for everybody. Whether that's 2 times or 200 times, as if it's helping to get you into that feeling, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. How do you recommend we get back into the state of the wish fulfilled during the day, but when we don't have time to imagine? During the day, but when we don't have time to imagine. So if we're out and about, or not really in a place that we can like sit and do sats, I take it. So, and again, this is why practicing getting to that feeling is everything. If we can even just remember or tap into that, right? So say, for example, if you're at work or you're driving in your car, running errands, and you want to tap back into that feeling, the more that you do practice with imagining the state of kind of sleep, whatever that, or any other type of method, and kind of like lullaby method, technique, whatever it might be, the more that we really get familiar with that feeling, the more effortless it's going to be to tap into it through our day-to-day. Initially, why we have so much resistance is because we're not used to this feeling. We're not used to that feeling based on circumstances, based on limiting beliefs, based on limiting assumptions, whatever you might call it. The more that we get familiar with this feeling, easier and easier it's going to be to tap into that anytime. I manifested my SP back. I realized that my mind sometimes has a tendency to circle back into the old story, as I get paranoid that something bad might happen. Any advice, please? Well, first off, congratulations on manifesting your SP back. That is awesome. First and foremost. And if you're noticing moments of the old story coming back, if you're noticing some of that fear or some of that, paranoia, I guess, it's important to kind of, first off, as soon as you're aware of it, once you are aware that that's where your mind is going, to just stop and ask yourself, stop and remind yourself that's just the remnant. That's remnants from the old state. That's remnants from the old story. And that might happen from time to time. We might have something happen that reminds us of the old story. As long as we're not feeding it, as long as we're not really giving that paranoia, that fear any life, as long as we're reminding ourselves, catching ourselves, and saying, that's the old story. That's all that is. That's the remnants from yesteryear. That's all that is. So practice really detaching from whatever that paranoia is, whatever that fear is. That's all it is. It's just a fear. It's not real. It's never real. So that's where strong mental diet really comes in handy. Just the old story. I do sats perfectly, but during the day, I sometimes slip and think how long it's been, and I panic that it may never happen. Can I overcome this by returning to the wish fulfilled state? Yes. Yes. The more that you go back to that place in imagination, the more and more that is going to be the new dominant state. That's going to become the more familiar state. You're going to start without even thinking about it, without even having to do anything. You're going to start responding and reacting from that new state of consciousness. When we're first starting on this journey, we're not familiar with that new state. We're typically still operating from the limiting beliefs and assumptions. But the more and more that we just practice going back there, even just a little bit, the more that we become acclimated to it, the more that we become familiar with it. And that's how we embody a new state of consciousness. So yes, just keep going back there. I realized I was revolving around the SP So I've been journaling things like, my reality is my own. People who are in my life are just like filters on a photo. It enhances it. Is this good to do? I love that. My reality is my own. People who are in my life are just like filters on a photo. It enhances it. I love that. Yeah. Yes. Anything that helps us remember, anything that will remind us that, this is the people and the experiences, like that is all an amazing, wonderful bonus. But at the end of the day, this is your reality. You are the God of your reality. I love that. That is a chef's kiss right there. What do you do when you get a negative thought pertaining to an SP? How do you get back into a neutral state? When you get a negative thought pertaining to an SP. So do you mean what to do if you begin to react to the negative thought? Because the negative thought on its own won't hold that much power unless we have a strong reaction or attachment to it. So if you're noticing negative thoughts and reacting to them, maybe it's causing you to panic or spiral or anything like that. This is why we practice with detachment. This is why we practice our mental diet. It's becoming more and more aware of when these things happen and kind of seeing it before we spiral or seeing it before we full-blown react. And practice stepping back, taking a step, looking at it objectively and seeing it for what it is. It's the old fear. It's the old story. That's all that is. It's all that is. Just because we have a negative thought does not mean in and of itself that this is going to play out. We don't need to fear our thoughts. We don't need to fear our thoughts. I would just, if you notice that it's beginning to cause a tumble, just take a moment, stop what you're doing, take that step back, realize what that is. And if you're able to, if you can, try to tap back into that feeling. Tap back into that desired feeling. Yeah. Don't fear your thoughts, though. Your thoughts are just feedback. Your thoughts are an amazing and wonderful tool. Don't fear them. Missy, please make a video on how you got to the Cannes Film Festival. I need tips in that area. Oh, virtual hugs. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a wild ride. I absolutely need to make a video about that. Beautiful, one of the most beautiful places in the world, by the way. Cannes is amazing. So how do we shift to another timeline with our desired past? And would screenshots disappear since it never happened? Yes. So do we shift into a desired? Yeah. When you revise the memories of your past, the events of the past, you are quite literally moving into that timeline. Just like how we can imagine something for the future, we can do the exact same thing for the past, because they're just concepts. There's no such thing as future or past. And a memory is just an imaginal act. So yes, you are quite literally moving your timeline. I know it sounds very sci-fi, but that is what's going on. Would screenshots disappear since it never happened? Yep. Oh, thank you, Joe. Oh, happy New Year's to you too, and blessings. Blessings to you. Family, happiness, health, and wealth in the new year. Amen to that. Amen to that. I love it. What if the revision of the first, but it kept replaying in different ways throughout the years? Vision of the first, but it Basically, it was my mom, ocean talking to someone. I'm trying to understand the question, Denise. I apologize. So it sounds like revising things from childhood, things like early years. And that is a very important part to do. Like if there are things that happened that really stand out to us and that really did help to form some of these limiting concepts, limiting beliefs, I would absolutely revise anything that happened in the early years. I certainly did. And as far as, the question was how to do it. If the question was how to do it, again, if it's too confusing, or if you're struggling to find a way to change the same to something else, you can imagine an entirely new memory. You can create a new memory. Memories are just imaginalized. Have you said in video before, initially you looped hundreds of times before you became a workshop? How long actually took you to master the law? Initially you looped hundreds of times. Yeah, so starting out, when I was very fresh, very new on this journey, I struggled with visualizing. I was not a good visualizer. It absolutely did take practice. It took practice to really help get into that new feeling, get into that new state of consciousness, start thinking from that new state of consciousness. I was hardwired in my old default setting for so long that that was all I knew. So absolutely, it took practice. And again, this is where persistence comes in and is so important. When we're talking about changing your self-concept, these, in some cases, we're talking about reconditioning decades of programming, essentially. So yeah, it absolutely took practice, but I would do it a million times over again without a second thought. This is the single best investment you can do for yourself. Absolutely. Oh, thank you for the tip. Thank you, Dave. When it comes to our SP, do we focus on both our self-concept and our concept of them? I'm just confused on how we work with both to bring about a change in them. The self-concept or concept of them. By changing your concept of self, your 3D surroundings will change. The people around you will change. There truly is no one to change but self. So it's important to observe, what things you're seeing in them, like any kind of traits or any kind of things that are what they're doing, because again, the 3D is feedback. But ultimately, we're not doing anything to change them. We're changing us, and by doing so, the 3D will conform to that. So we focus on ourselves. And if anything, how they're showing up is feedback as to what is going on within us. No one to change but self. Can our manifestations still occur even if we have doubts and we don't have much belief? Can our manifestations still occur? I mean, yeah. Yeah, you can. So can you manifest even if you doubt or have moments of disbelief? Yeah. Yeah, I'd say a lot of people have done that. I've certainly done it in moments of, especially when starting out with this, it's not the most realistic thing in the world to say that you're going to have 100% rock solid faith. There's going to be moments where we're a little bit shaky. There's going to be moments where we react or we doubt, whatever it might be. Yeah, and that's why we shouldn't beat ourselves up or fear that if that happens. We're just wanting to begin to shift the focus. We're beginning to shift our perception. Using imagination, feeling yourself as the version of you that you desire to be. And the more and more that you do that, the more and more the doubts and fears will subside. They have to. They have to. The 3D will conform to that new concept of self. So, and the reason that self-concept is so important is, yes, we may ultimately manifest our desire, even if we're still very much in a state of doubt or a state of lack, but we don't want anything to, we want to keep our desire around. We want to keep them around. We don't want to risk anything happening and wind up in a pattern again. So short answer is yes, you can still manifest from places of doubt and fear. And again, it's normal to have bits of doubt and fear, but this is why we practice. This is why we persist. Because there truly is no one to change but self. And I mean that with every ounce of my being. Change your concept of self and watch the world around you change. Did your SP feel it? You manifested them. Or if we feel neutral about them, do they feel neutral about us? Or if we are mad at them, are they mad at us? Did my SP feel it when I manifested him? I think, this question was asked at the beginning of the live stream, but I don't know if you were here. We did talk about, down the line after we got back together, I did wind up telling him about the manifestation journey, and he did tell me that there were a lot of times where I would randomly start coming up for him. He would start missing me, and it was like it was seemingly out of the blue. So yes, he did feel it. He certainly did. If we feel neutral about them, do they feel neutral about us? If we're mad at them, are they mad at us? If we're mad at them, are they mad at us? I'm trying to understand the second part of the question. If we feel neutral about them, do they feel neutral about us? I mean, yeah, if I'm understanding this right, if we are mad at them, are they mad at us? So when it comes to everyone as you pushed out, yes, everybody is going to show up in the way that we assume them to show up. So if we're angry at them, then they're going to show up with something for us to be angry about. Or, if we have a lovely assumption about them, they're going to show up in that lovely state. Yeah, it's their assumption. It's your assumption about them. It's your assumption about them. It's not ever about how they're feeling. In your reality, you're the one in the driver's seat. So the important thing is, what is your assumption about them? Because that's how they're going to show up every time. My life is really good and I feel great. How can you tell if you need to tweak something when assuming when manifestations don't show up and it's been a really long time? How can you tell if you need to tweak something when assuming when manifestations don't show up and it's been a really long time? So, and this is where the observation comes in. This is where the self-observation comes in. If you're noticing how long it's been, if you're being constantly reminded of how long it's been, I mean that is an indication that we need to go back into this, right? Something may need to be tweaked and adjusted right there. Yeah, it's not even the time itself as us constantly being aware of it. So, and again, with practice, with feeling it more and more, that is going to be that's going to be the new dominant state. That's going to be the new default setting. So just really to pay attention in your day to day. Really pay attention to where you are. Really pay attention to what is coming up for you. Like, are you thinking from that place? Are you thinking from the place of the wish fulfilled? Or are you coming more from a place of, where is it? It's not here yet. Why is it not here yet? It's been a long time. I mean, that kind of indication will tell you everything. Yeah. Just, where are you more often than not? I don't know if you remember me, we did a consultation. My SP came back, but it was confusing because what he was saying was not a belief I ever felt I carried. Can the 3D reflect a belief that doesn't resonate? So, is the belief was not a belief? Not a belief I ever felt I carried. So, when, again, when it comes to everyone issue pushed out, it's both what we assume about ourselves, it's our self-concept, but it's also what we assume about them. So, and not really knowing the details or anything about this, can a 3D reflect a belief that doesn't resonate? So ask yourself, like, what were the assumptions about him what were your assumptions about him? It may not be a belief that you carried. It may not be, a direct reflection of you through him. And again, I may be totally off here. Excuse me if I didn't understand the question, but it's also what we assume about them. They're going to show up in the way that we assume them to show up. Advice / steps on revising the breakup when that's the thing you're manifesting. Healthy relationship. It almost seems like two conflicting thoughts. Just accept and live in the end. Any advice on revising the breakup when that's the thing you manifest? Well, it is two conflicting states of consciousness. A breakup and a healthy relationship are two conflicting states of consciousness. So when it comes to revising a breakup, yes, I would, again, imagine it, things had gone very differently. Imagine that, whatever started that initial thing, things went entirely differently. And again, build up new memories. Build up new memories. Really begin to play in your imagination. You can absolutely create an entirely new reality where the breakup never happened. And I would go there. I would do that 100%. I feel calm and no urge to do anything. I feel calm and no urge to do anything to make it happen anymore, but it's not a feeling of knowing. It's more a feeling of acceptance, and whatever happens is fine. Though would be happy to have my relationship back. My feeling of acceptance, whatever is fine. I'd be happy to have my relationship back. Well, and so from what I gathered, and again, sorry if I misunderstood the question, you're asking about if you're in the Sabbath or not? Because, there's the important things to really note on whether or not we dropped it, whether or not we let go, is, do I, am I constantly aware of the lack? And do I feel like I need to keep doing something, right? So if we get to a place where we don't have a desire to do any more techniques, affirm, visualize, if we get to a place that feels calm, just, even if it's not an elated feeling. That what you're describing does sound effectively like letting go, dropping the desire. Yes. And that's another video that I got to touch on, because I've had at least 3 people ask me that question about whether or not they're in the Sabbath. I will make a video about talking more in detail about the Sabbath and about dropping the desire and letting go. Because there's a lot of people who give up on manifesting, and a lot of people who may walk away. They're not quite one and the same, but again, that's a whole topic on its own. That is a long topic on its own, but videos coming for that one for sure. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Thank you. What are your thoughts on quantum jumping to another reality? More so sci-fi level of changing reality. Can I become a younger version of myself? Yes, quantum leaping, absolutely. I am a huge, even before I found Neville, I was always fascinated with quantum physics and even the idea of multiple realities, of parallel realities. That was something that was always fascinating. So I've always been a huge fan. And as far as what was the other part of that question? Can you manifest a younger version of yourself? Can you jump into a reality and basically where you're a younger version of you? I think that was your question. Forgive me if I messed it up somehow. You can absolutely quantum jump into a state where you are feeling better, where you are looking younger, 100%. 100%. Where you see and notice the physical changes and all of that. Can I become a younger version of myself? So in short, yes. Yes, you can. And that's the beauty. I mean, quantum jumping is a very sci-fi way. Not even sci-fi. That's just quantum physics and talking about moving into a new state of consciousness. When I say state of consciousness, I'm talking about a new reality. It's one and the same. See if this approach is correct. External circumstances and internal thoughts, etc., all friendly messengers telling us our current state. If we don't like them, just change our state, correct? Bam! Anton, that's it. Yes. External circumstances and internal thoughts, they're just guides. It's feedback. It's feedback telling you about the state of consciousness that you've been embodying. And remember, we're constantly moving in and out of states. So that is our cue, that is our feedback, letting us know, what have we been occupying? What are we occupying? And if it's something that we don't want, turn the focus on the state of the wish fulfilled. You had it 100% right. Meant that in the time travel sense. Meant that in the time travel sense. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry, I was confused sorry, Robin Hood. So you're asking about quantum leaping into the past or the future? I mean, yes, effectively. The past and future aren't real. Like, as far as linear time is concerned, it's not a real concept. It's an illusion. So you can move into a state that was the past or the future. Absolutely. Absolutely. What are the limits of manifestation? Can I bring someone back to life? Change my race? Okay. My age? The limits of manifestation are the limits that we put on ourselves. In a nutshell. When we say anything is possible, I mean that in quite the literal sense. I tried the ladder experiment and didn't try that hard because I was kind of skeptical. 2 days later, I was on a ladder to install a new doorbell, and I realized that is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, the ladder exercise will blow your mind. Hi, Missy. What would you do in terms of manifesting if you wanted to be a TV host? What I would do personally to become a TV host? Sorry, 1 second. Just had a computer notification come up. I'm sorry about that. So as far as what I would do if I wanted that desire specifically, so I mean, first thing, are you a visualizer? Do you affirmations work better? Because again, I'm really big on hearing and seeing to get to that feeling. That's my jam. So I would imagine myself, I would put myself in that place of, what would this reality look like? Ask yourself that question. I'm serious, guys. Ask yourself that question for literally anything. If this was now my experience, what would that look like? What would that feel like? And start to really construct that picture in your mind. So whether that's, seeing yourself in front of a live audience, seeing the set, if you're a more visual person, you can really begin to literally construct and build that image in your mind. As you're thinking about it, as you're letting yourself think about what that feels like and what that looks like, you can start to construct in your mind. If you're more audio, like if hearing in imagination is easier, then you can do something along the lines of hearing the crowd applaud. You can, hear a TV show jingle. I mean, you get to play with it, but for me, because I am, now more of the visual person, more, visual audio, I would begin to really construct that picture in my mind. I would see the set, I would see the audience, I would be looking at cue cards, I could see the cameras, see the lights, the stage lights, all of that, and really begin to put that piece together. That's what I would do personally. Regarding everyone she pushed out, how does self-concept and assumptions of others correlate? I'm just a little confused on when to change my concept of self and when to change my assumption of them. How does self-concept and assumptions of others? Oh, okay. No, I got you. That's a good question. So where are the assumptions of them stemming from? So your concept of self is the building blocks of your beliefs, the assumptions, the expectations, all of those things that make your identity and make you you. That is your self-concept. And when it comes to your assumption of them, where that stems from is based. So for example, if they are always flaking, or if they're always ghosting you, if that is an assumption that you're noticing about them, that stems from a place of feeling unwanted, feeling abandoned, feeling not good enough, feeling rejected. So that's kind of the correlation there. If you're noticing and assuming things about this other person, stop and really kind of ask yourself, how does this fit? Like, how does this, why am I having this assumption? Is it based off an experience that I had? Is it based off a belief that I carry? 1000% of the time, it's going to be yes. Yeah. So your self-concept will form the assumptions about other people. Absolutely. That's why it's important to pay attention to both. Super chat. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Oh, hi. We haven't. SP and I are kind of on a break, and I'm scared you will forget me or not conform. So, first off, I know there's a human fear of time, in that if there's more time that's elapsed, then they're farther away from us, or they're going to move on from us. They're going to forget about us. But that's an illusion. That's always an illusion. First off, because there really is no such thing as time in that construct that we've created. And also because at any point, we can manifest them back. We can manifest them back. That they will show up in whatever way that we assume, in whatever way that, not just about them, but also about us. So it doesn't matter how much time has passed. I know it might feel like that. It doesn't matter how much time has passed. They're not going to move on and forget about us and all of that. I mean, unless we accept that as our truth. But so long as you don't do that, there's nothing you have to worry about. There's nothing you have to worry about there, I promise. I've been manifesting for a new Jeep Grand Cherokee for less than months, and I keep seeing them everywhere. I'm currently a med student with no job. I feel I can still get it. Thoughts? Yeah, so when you have something on your mind a lot, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. You're going to start seeing pictures, or in this case, your car, Jeep Grand Cherokee. Yeah, that's because something is in the forefront of our mind. We're going to see more proof of it in the 3D, because again, the 3D is a perfect outpicturing of whatever is on our mind, whatever we're assuming, whatever we're occupying throughout our day. So as far as the circumstance of being, a med student with no job, I mean, that literally does not matter as far as being able to manifest it is concerned. You can absolutely manifest it. And there's so many ways in which it can come to pass for you. So that's why going straight to the end is an important factor, because we don't need to figure out how it's going to happen. That's not our job. That's not our job. You persist in that end, and you will be the owner of that new Jeep. Self-concept when getting triggered, when talking to your SP on the phone because you want them conformed already. Self-concept when getting triggered. When talking to your SP on the phone because you want them to conform already. So I think, are you asking about what to do if we're getting triggered? Basically because they're not conforming, or I think that's what you're asking. And forgive me, correct me if I'm wrong. Getting triggered, talking because you want them conformed already. And this is something that is almost universal with a lot of people. Yes, we want them to conform, and we want them to conform right now. And we get that. Mental diet. This is where mental diet comes in. This is where catching ourselves come in. Not letting yourself just run on autopilot and run on the old story. Because we spend 90 to 95% of our day on autopilot. So a big part of this is becoming more and more aware and catching ourselves before we really start to launch into that. Before the trigger really gets set off. So I would be really keenly aware of the mental diet right now. Really keenly aware. And anytime that you're noticing those triggers, remind yourself, that's all yesterday's news. That's all the old story. It's the past. It's literally the past. It has no bearing, it has no effect on what I can manifest, what I can do, what is possible for me. Remind yourself and be still and know that you are God. Sincerely, nothing is impossible to you. So to get the desired outcome of something, not happening. We must visualize and feel it. So to get the desired outcome of something not happening, we must visualize and feel what it would have been like if it didn't happen and persist in it until it becomes reality. Yes. Sorry. Sometimes I need to read it a couple times to make sure that I'm fully understanding the question. Yeah, so I think you're talking about revision, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, when it comes to revision, we are focusing on that desired past outcome. It's the same thing as what we imagine for something in the future. Instead, this is just essentially creating a new memory. It's changing the thing that did happen, changing the unwanted thing to the wanted thing. Yeah, and persisting in that until we begin to really feel that that is our truth. Yes. I mean, if I was a 30-year-old, can I quantum jump to the past to live as my 13-year-old self? This is another video that I have to make. And this has actually been on my list of things to create. I did make a video about quantum jumping. If you haven't checked out that video, definitely do so. I go into a lot of detail about quantum leaping in that one. But I do want to create, I guess, a follow-up or adding to that video, talking more about, more of the sci-fi aspects of this and things like time travel and yada yada. But you actually just reminded me that I need to do that. I need to make that video. Can you quantum jump to the past to live as my 13-year-old self? This is going to sound bizarre, but yes. Yeah. Neville used to call it worlds within worlds. There are worlds within worlds, and we can absolutely move into different times. Yes. I'll talk about that in the video. What if I change my mind as to who? What if I change my mind as to who I want to manifest? What if I want, in general, the love aspect and not a specific person? I seem to have lost interest in the color I was trying to manifest. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with changing our minds or discovering that we're desiring something different. Not in general, the love aspect. I think that's wonderful. I think that's a beautiful thing. If it boils down to the feeling of loved and being loved and enjoying a relationship, then yeah, I would focus on that. I would focus on that. Especially if you have changed your mind about this coworker, if you are desiring something different, you can absolutely begin to just focus on the more general concept of love and being in a relationship and what that looks like to you. And in fact, there might be less resistance by doing it that way. And give it a try. All right, you guys, just a heads up, I'm going to do maybe 2 or 3 more questions and then call it a wrap for tonight. Y'all have been really awesome, by the way. This has been a lot of fun. Do I believe in reincarnation? I do. Yes. Well, like I mentioned earlier, and I'm planning on I'm probably going to need to make a series when I'm discussing death and what happens. That's a big one, and that does come up a lot. But I certainly believe that we, of course, come back. I mean, we never die in the first place. There is no such thing as us not existing anymore. We're effectively moving somewhere else. We're changing states. So yes, I believe in reincarnation. Absolutely. How long can the leg between 4D and 3D be? If I have been affirming for the commitment for 3 to 4 months, see movement, and keep my mental diet, then I see the opposite. Is this belief from years back? How long can the leg be between the 4D and the 3D. And this is where it's hard to give direct answers about time. As far as like how long can something be from X to Z or Y to Z or whatever, that radically depends. Depends on circumstance, depends on person, depends on belief, depends on assumption. There's a lot of factors there. But what was the other part of that question? So sorry. I've been affirming for commitment for different months. See movement. Is this belief from years back? So what I'm gathering is if I've been affirming for commitment for 3 to 4 months, see movement, and keep my mental diet, then I see the opposite. Is this beliefs from years back? Again, that is hard to say. Every circumstance, every person is going to be different. Like, again, this is going back to self-observation and really digging into why is this thing showing up in this way? Why am I having this reaction? Where is it stemming from? Because it could be something that was overlooked, and that's usually the case of what is going on. It does typically come from something that maybe we were overlooking because, again, we're on autopilot the vast majority of the time. And we're not always being completely aware of what we're feeling and why we're feeling it and where it's stemming from. So it could very well be that, even if something happened, or if you were affirming or, consistent in your practice, seeing movement and then getting the opposite, it very well could be from something a while back. Absolutely. But that's where, we really have to do the digging ourselves. I'd say that's a very, very likely cause. But this is where really kind of taking the time to get underneath the surface, get underneath those layers, and find out what's going on and why. And you will find it. If you search for it, you will find it. How can I lose weight while consuming 3,500 calories a day and never exercising? Oh, I love that. Well, you can do it by forming the assumption that you never gain weight, that you can eat whatever you want and do what you want and not gain weight. That you have a crazy fast metabolism. There's a lot of people that do have crazy fast metabolisms, right? Yeah. But I start with the assumption, and it's always with the assumption. It's always forming the new assumption. I love that question. Can you speak on birds before land more? Literally everyone in my surroundings got married. I find it quite amazing. So I actually talk about it in, I forget the name of the video. I made a video talking about birds before land. I'm going to have to find it and put it in the description box of this. But it's effectively when you're seeing confirmations of your manifestation or of your desire, but it's not maybe from your person. Maybe it's coworkers, maybe it's ex-boyfriends or girlfriends reaching out, professing their love to you. That's birds before land. So it's part of the bridge. When you are embodying a state of love, when you are embodying a state of security and all of the things that come with being in a committed relationship, your 3D will conform to that. At first, it may not be from your specific person. You might see instances of it from other people. I'm not saying it's going to happen like that, but if it does, it's not a bad thing. I will say it right now, it's definitely not a bad thing. But what I will do is I'll find the video where I talk more about birds before land. I'll make sure to drop that in the description box of this when I'm done. I can't remember for the life of me what the title of that video was, and I do apologize. But It's certainly not a bad thing. Keep persisting, keep going. How do you manifest someone who's already in a relationship and family with somebody else? Literally, it was like my fears of my thoughts manifested instead. Mm-hmm. How do you manifest somebody who's already family with somebody else? So, I know we are all very attached to the 3D. I know that, how we've been conditioned is to react and respond to the 3D. A big part of this practice is undoing that. It literally doesn't matter what the circumstances look like. All you need to do, all any of us need to do, all we need to do, practice going to that end, keep going to that end, go to that place where the two of you are together and you're happy and everything is wonderful, and watch how things unfold for you. We don't have to know how it's going to manifest. That's not our job. That's not our job to know consciously. We couldn't know consciously how that would come about. Just go to the end. Because in this case, it does sound like what? Oh. My childhood wounds of being ignored. Sorry, a couple of pop-ups just came through. My childhood wounds of being ignored keep getting triggered. I don't react as speed, but I have to keep soothing myself. I'm so frustrated. I do inner childhood meditations, revising at night. Trying to understand the question. Bear with me 1 second. Keep getting triggered. Keep soothing myself, and I'm so frustrated. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to understand what the question is. How to remove those wounds? Is that right? I really cannot give answers about how long it will take. Everybody is going to be different. Everybody's journey is different. And this is why I try to tell people, don't compare yourself to that person over there. I mean, they're all reflections of you anyways, so don't do that. But as far as how to overcome that kind of, how to heal from that, I mean, for what I did, what helped me so much through my trauma and through what I experienced as a child was revision. Revision did so much in dismantling that old story, dismantling all of the crap that came with that old story. And it sounds like that is something that you have been putting to practice. And, again, make sure that you're revising it in a way that is not, that is removing whatever happened entirely. So essentially create new memories if you have to, but starting at the root and really begin to dismantle all the things that happened then. The revision was how I did it, 100%. And I know it can be very frustrating. I was there for a long time too, I remember. I can only tell you, through persistence, it's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Oh, thank you, Redhead. Absolutely. Absolutely. I am so glad to have helped quantum jumping is such a delight. It is such a delightful concept. That's really the kind of approach that I want to see all of you take to it too. Like, approach manifestation, approach imagination with that same kind of curious playfulness, and really, when it comes to quantum leaping, the idea is so, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, it's curious, and it, find a way to get that side of you out. Get that side of you that's like, I want to do this because it feels amazing. Because it is amazing. So thank you, Reddit. Thank you so much. I'm super happy to have helped. I hope you have fun. Definitely let me know how it goes for you. How to know what part of my self-concept changed to make us care about me? What would the version of you that had your SP, how would that feel? What would that version be like? Always, 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 if we're confused and we're not sure what to do or how to approach this, go back to, like, tap into that. Your imagination is the doorway. That is how you begin to change your self-concept. Through feeling that desired state, you are literally, quite literally, embodying that new concept. You're embodying that new version of you, that new state. Go there and play in imagination. So, as far as what part of your self-concept to change, anything that is resistant to what you desire. If there is anything that is resistant to what you desire, that's what you need to change. If there's a feeling of not being good enough, if there's a feeling of I'm not attractive enough, I never get what I want, I'll just get abandoned anyways, I'm always looked over. Anything like that, that's the part of the self-concept that needs to change. Whatever that resistance is. All right. Y'all, you have been wonderful. This has been so much fun. I love, love, love doing this. But I do need to call it a wrap. Thank you all so much for your questions. I hope I was able to answer everyone's okay. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking the time with me. And we'll definitely be getting with Kimberly very soon and figuring out, the time and date that we will meet for our collaboration and the both of us coming into for this Q&A. So definitely keep posted for that. She'll be announcing it once we have that date finalized. And definitely check out my new Facebook group and Instagram account, all the social accounts. Connect, let's chat. Y'all have been wonderful. This has been awesome. Yes, I will be back. I will be doing this again soon. No worries, you guys. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Yay. Thank you, guys. Take care. Much love. Much love. Have a great night.